on the call. Trying to think who we haven't. Tonya, has Tonya checked in?
No.
No, I haven't. No, sorry.
Tonya, thank you.
How's it, everyone? Tanya here. Sorry, my bandwidth is very low and there's a power outage, so I'm just keeping my camera off. It's very dodgy internet. I'm checking in a little bit flustered, just having a run around this morning, but I'm also checking in, happy to be back in the container. Hello? No. I've been missing the last few weeks because I just went through a breakup, so it's just been a bit hectic this side, but I'm happy to be back. Thank you. Anyone else? I can't see. Leanne, Josh, yeah. Okay.
Morning, everybody. Leanne checking in. Yeah, feeling present. Guys, there are a lot of you on the call, so can you just mute yourselves when you're not speaking? Yeah, and passing over to David.
Great. Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to Crisis, Chaos and Conflict. The sign of being a good recovery coach is to be able to dance in the chaos. Some days I dance better than others. And I always have an underlying anxiety when things get chaotic, and somehow I think it's my fault and my responsibility. It's often my responsibility, but not necessarily my fault. Which is yeah, something I reflect on, yeah, with the help of my colleagues. Okay, so those of you that have just joined us, welcome. Part of the culture of our containers is people can join us when they can. And part of this container is there's a lot of people that have done some sort of recovery coaching training before. Yeah. So it's not as if people haven't got an idea of what coaching is. Is that a correct assumption? Everyone's kind of either been with Nikki or been with Leanne before or with me before, or a combination of all of us. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah, okay. I don't know why my sound is irritating me like this. Okay. All right, so just to give a very brief overview of the whole training. So it's 20 weeks, 2 hours a week. So at the end of those 20 weeks, you would have completed 40 hours of classroom time had you been here from the beginning. Okay, those 20 weeks are broken up into 5 modules. The first 4 being the coaching conversation. Next one, the continuums. The third 4 is the system. Then we talk about the 4Q leadership model. And then the last 4 weeks is creating the container. And during the training, we will make use of all of those. They will all come together in some form, and I'll be facilitating and holding this space. So the overall arch is we're at week number 5, and we're starting the continuums. Is that correct? Kayleen, Joshua, Ines, Mark, and where's did he drop off? Inessa? Oh, sisters Shuma, yeah.
I'm here.
Oh, Bradley, there's Bradley. I couldn't. Bradley with the problem with the video. Okay, great. All right. Okay, so
Sister Tuma, please will you mute your microphone? There's a weird crackling feedback from you. Thanks.
thank you. Okay, cool. All right, so the continuums are, so a continuum, first of all, is a line, for want of a better word, 2 points. So to get from A to Z, that would be a continuum. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or 1 to 10. Yep. And so the continuums, what we want you to kind of get your head around is sometimes from someone to go from A to Z is too big a jump, but they might be able to go from A to B or B to C, little steps to move along like that. Yeah. And so that's the idea of a continuum, and we have 4 continuums that we talk about. The first one is the progression of someone's addiction or someone's use in a culture of addiction. So they go from use to misuse to abuse to dependence. Yep. So people use a substance, it's great, it's fun. They misuse it. Oh, I drank too much last night. They go out knowing that they're going to get pissed and have a hangover the next day. So they're consciously knowing that they're going to go and abuse a substance, and then they go mad and they become dependent on something that they know is going to harm them. Does that make sense for everyone? Are we all on the same page? Yep. So that's the one continuum. Yep. Have you ever fallen in love with someone that you weren't meant to fall in love with? Have you fallen in love with them? Did you listen? It's that scenario. No, you didn't listen. You went in knowing that it was going to be, knowing that people warned you, but thinking it was going to be different. Yep. And then you get to a point where you're, oh my God, everyone was right. How do I get out of this? Yep. So that's the one continuum. The next continuum will be, and this is where Fortune works very well, in the harm reduction area. So that the continuum, the one side is high well-being, the other side is premature death. And you see your client or the person or whoever it is, and you make a judgment call. Is this person moving to premature death, or are they moving to high well-being? Yep. So, for example, where Fortune works in the harm reduction place, somebody might be using a street Nyope, injecting with dirty needles, and they stop doing that, and then they come into an environment where they're using clean needles, and there's a needle exchange, and the using environment is healthier. Yeah, the harm of that is reduced. Yeah, and hopefully that person can move on towards a higher well-being and maybe get to a place of abstinence one day. Yeah, but that we don't know. Yep. The other side of the high well-being continuum is somebody might be terminally ill. So they might have terminal cancer, but their mental attitude takes them towards high well-being. So I know I'm going to die, but I'm responding in the world where I'm more kind of spiritually, I'm going to say enlightened or supported, or my attitude around that is in a much better place than, I'm going to die and da, da, da. There was a case of someone I knew, I knew of someone who knew someone that went to Mill Park Hospital during COVID, and the guy was so anxious and he kept saying, I'm going in there to die, I'm going in there to die, and then the guy ended up dying. And there was a lot of the attitude that wasn't helpful. Does that make sense? Yep. Okay, the next continuum we talk about is codependency, independence, and then interdependency. Yep. So a lot of people, somebody might be in a culture of addiction, and the family and everyone are caught up in that person's behavior. They lose sense of agency for themselves, and they're caught up, and they base their emotions and well-being on somebody else's behavior. So in my family system, when my dad was sober, me and my mum would talk, oh my God, when's he going to start drinking again? When's the shit going to hit the fan? And we were in a state of anxiety, waiting for the shit to hit the fan. And when the shit did hit the fan, it's like, oh God, there he is drinking again, and there we go. And our relationship was based around my dad's behavior until one day I said, listen, Mum, we got to learn how to talk about something else other than my dad and his struggles with substance use disorder and alcoholism. Does that make sense? When people come into the clinic, and the patients get separated from their family, we observe how the family is doing around the patient. Do they phone every day to see how they're doing? Oh my God, how am I doing? Is he okay? Is he coping? Yeah. Or do we not hear anything? It's like, fuck it. Okay, we've given him to you. You sort him out. We're going to Mauritius. Yeah. So that's another continuum that we need to be aware of. So I've done use, I've done high well-being, I've done codependence, interdependence, and then the last one is a culture of addiction where someone's caught in the addictive behavior, to harm reduction, to abstinence. And I touched on it briefly with Fortune. Okay. So those are the 4 continuums that you need to understand to become a recovery coach. However, if you were to look at yourselves as students, when you first started this training or one of the trainings, and you were to look back, how have you progressed along this continuum of learning about recovery coaching? So that's an open question, which I'm putting towards the container. And I'm going to try and slow down my speech and my conversation and my heightened physical. Okay, so how have you guys progressed as students along during this training? One at a time, please. I'm getting bad feedback here. There we go, Kayleen. Wonderful. Thank you. Kick us off.
So David, I would say, having come from a place of coming in with our own ideas and expectations and sort of our beliefs about addiction and the recovery process versus where we are now. And for me personally, I've gotten to a point where every session I'm learning. I'm a student in the sense that I'm learning from everyone else that's also in the container and also from you and Leanne. So in that essence, it's gone from a place of having sort of only my own thoughts and expectations to having a much broader understanding of the lived experience, but also the theory and the approach that we take.
Great. Okay. Cool. Next.
David, I similarly to Kayleen, but I just want to say that mine was, I had a lot of anxiety when I first started. I thought,
Let's stop a second. Just give us a big smile and show us those earrings of yours.
yeah, I've got an extreme makeover.
Yeah, so Mark, I made a joke of it, but for me, I can see how you've progressed physically over the past 5 weeks. You've
Yes.
had a whole lot of dental work, you're having a makeover, now you've got some bling in your ears, and your physical, there's care going into the way that you're looking. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yeah, well, on top of that, I've started pole dancing.
Don't push it, eh?
But just for fitness and for making new friends and adding to the the recovery capital that I need. So it's
Genuinely, you've started pole dancing.
yes, genuinely, yes.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, I signed up. I went on Monday, I went on Tuesday. I'm sore from all the lifting and stretching and
Okay, I've never met a male pole dancer.
well, there's 3 at the class, so it's an actual like sport. They have competitions, and so I found a passion, even though I suck.
Okay, wow, that's wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's like everything, like at the moment, since we started this, I've become so curious about how I engage with people, how I engage with myself. I think I've moved in my recovery process to being more well, and now being more curious about learning how I can adapt principles into my recovery and engage with people in the house that come in and they're new, and how I can be more of service and share my experience and where I've got on, because I'm coming up to 6 months of sobriety now, and I'm feeling like really engaged and connected. And yeah, Josh and I have practiced coaching. I think we had 2 sessions. So I'm just loving everything about my life currently,
Okay,
which is
cool. All right.
great.
Great.
Thanks.
Josh?
Yeah, I did not start pole dancing or anything interesting like that. But what I will say is I've come from a place of not really understanding what coaching looked like, to that fog kind of clearing and kind of like understanding the shape of it. And now I'm getting the details and the structure of it. And I don't know, I've moved from a place of like not really believing in myself and learning new things. It's been a while since I've like really been in a class or learned anything. And now I'm like excited to learn, because it's like the more that I figure it out, the more I realize how much I resonate with this work. And yeah, I feel like things are a lot more tangible now, and it's nice because now I have ideas and questions and mindsets and things to work with. And it's been cool to see that shift for sure.
Fantastic. Sister Chuma?
Okay. Initially, when we started, can you hear me? Okay. Like when we started the training, like I was completely like I didn't know what was happening. I was completely lost. But with the sessions that you have received, I'm now resonating to everything, to what to do or what to do when you're a coach, and how to treat your clients during coaching sessions, because coaching is so much different from someone coming for a therapy session or something like that. So I'm now like understanding more coaching, like to counseling or to doing therapy sessions. So this session, like this training session, is like it's opening my mind. It's opening my mind really. I'm getting to know what coaching is. Thank you.
Great. So you're getting clarity of the role definition.
Yes.
So yeah, so even though you're medically trained and as a nurse, you can still use the skill of coaching to interact with the patients using a coaching style. Okay. All right, let's go to Bradley.
Hey there. So yeah, from my side, I think it's been great. I'm thinking just of last week sitting with someone again, and then actually when I'm done with the session with them, I actually sit and I look back. It's like, oh, okay, so that I just done now was actually the things that I implemented without me actually knowing I've implemented things.
Okay, great. So you're starting to become unconsciously competent.
Yes, because I was looking this morning, I was going through the module again, and it was going just of the coaching style, different coaching styles. And I was saying, and I'm going through, I'm like, oh, I see that. Okay, I can see that. But now it just gives that more clarity, more definition to it.
Okay, great. So you're becoming conscious. Yeah, you're aware of how unconsciously competent you were.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It's like, oh, wow, I can actually do this. Oh yeah, there I did that, and I did a bit of that, and
yes.
Okay, great. That's a nice smile on your face. What does that smile say?
Personally, for me,
yeah,
I think it's just like you're saying, is that you don't actually realize what you're doing until someone maybe lets you know, or you read something about it and it's like, oh, okay, I am actually doing the things. Yeah, so that's that smile.
So the smile
That's
says,
acknowledgement.
smile says to me, it's like, oh, I'm getting confident in this stuff.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Inessa?
So Bradley and David have stole my continuum, because that was my continuum of learning, of coming from being completely unconscious and unconsciously incompetent of anything to do with addictions, and then coming on the scores knowing that, you know, that I'm very conscious, I'm very incompetent in this field, and then starting to kind of move, you know, towards, okay, I'm starting to understand, and I think what we talked about, having structures and having all these excuse me, all these pictures and news have been very, very helpful. But more so, it's been helpful to hear from the guys that's been walking either with people or that have been walking their own recovery. It's been, so my learning capital and my learning continuum is progressing thanks to guys like Mark and others that's been sharing.
Great stuff. Thank you. Okay. So you've become conscious of how unconsciously incompetent you were. Yeah? Which is a humbling experience. Where did you go? Yeah, which is a humbling experience. It's like, oh shit, and I really thought, yep. And now you've become consciously competent. Like if I do this and I listen to other, okay, this is, wow, that's fantastic. Great. Nick?
Yeah, I second that. It is humbling and an intriguing process. You know, a lot of us have the lived experience. I can't speak for everyone. I don't know everyone here, but a lot of us obviously had the lived experience of active addiction, and then treatment after that, where you started to build tools and you started to build that toolbox. And then for myself, I mean, I studied addiction counseling as well, where you pick up an awful lot more tools then, and you start to build that scaffold. This recovery coaching I'm finding the most challenging and the most intriguing, because it's actually you're building that whole scaffold, but it's almost like an intrinsic virtual scaffold, but you're not frapping in any way. So you've got to be way more thoughtful in your process. It's obviously listening based, but you're really listening for cues and clues from the client and using it and weaving all of that knowledge in and that scaffold and those tools in without frapping in any way. And that really keeps you on your toes. It's flipping difficult, and it's a lot more meaningful to me than coaching, than frapping. And I'm loving the process.
Okay, so Nick, stay on line. I'm going to push you a little bit more. Yeah, if that's right with you. So first of all, I just want to double check, this is being streamed to an unlisted YouTube channel just for recording purposes, and is everyone okay with that? Yep. Okay, cool. All right. So Nick, I want you to repeat everything you just said, but this time I want you to use I statements. So what I have found is that when I've that this is a lot more. Okay, go for it.
All right. What I found is, first of all, through my lived experience, through being in active use and then going through treatment, I picked up an awful lot of tools from counselors, from psychologists, psychiatrists, and all the rest of it. And you end up, after extensive treatment, you walk out into the big...
I ended up
walking out into the world with a very full toolbox and almost confused about which tool to use when. And but I started to learn to do that and put it all into practice, and started to gel with the world again, and started to, you know, love myself again eventually. And as a result, I studied counseling, addiction counseling, and I did all sorts of various courses on there, which is very much theory based. It's very analytical. It's very deep. It's actually very confusing, because you can study 50 psychiatrists, psychologists, and they will tackle the same subject from 50 different angles. So you've really got to...
confusing, because I've found lots of different professionals have different opinions, and I've found that confusing.
Exactly. That's what I found terribly confusing. And then I found this course through UACT and the inimitable David Collins and Leanne and Nikki. And what I've found amazing about this is that it's tackling it from 180 degrees, from the other side completely. It's all about listening. I find that I have to use those tools, but use them very much in my scaffold in the background and without frapping. So I'm not laying this on the client, but through listening to the client, I have to very carefully choose my words and choose my questioning so as not to project and not to lead them where I want them led, but I find it hugely challenging, far more challenging than actually counseling or any therapy. And what I find in the coaching I've done so far is that the feedback from the client is just so much deeper and so much more meaningful. And I find that hugely stimulating for me because it's the action is coming from the client, not from me. I'm not giving them a to-do list. They're coming up with a to-do list. So I find this process far more rewarding. Was that all right?
That was fantastic. So let's just, how did well, first of all, Nick, how was it different for you talking from the I? And the reason we want to talk about the I, yep, is so when we share our story, yep, we can share our lived experience around this. So I also found theory and that everyone comes from this from a different angle, and I found that overwhelming myself. So I relate to that part. Does that make sense?
It does completely. I'm just not used to speaking in the I.
Yeah, nobody is. Nobody is.
I don't know why. I mean, I run a business, and I'm that's what I am, a businessman, and I've had various businesses over the years, but I've never talked about I. I might be the CEO, but I always talk about we.
Yep.
Business. It's we because we're in it together. So I'm just assuming we're all in it together, but we have different stories. So I must get used to the I.
Great. Okay, cool. Anyone else want to build on the difference when Nick spoke from the I? That was a yes/no question. Does anyone else want to? You see, I also get it wrong. There's no right or wrong here. Okay.
I'll speak to the I a bit. I mean, when we're talking about the collective, Nick, there's nothing wrong with that. But what I think David's pointing out is there's a lot of, when you go to treatment and when you learn these things and then that's different. And what we're trying to get our clients to do is take ownership and accountability and agency by speaking from I, not just, a lot of people say, yeah, you go home and then you have a fight with your partner and then you get triggered. Well, no, I don't, because my life is different to your life. So it's really about, like David said, owning the story, taking agency and autonomy for the situation rather than externalizing it. So we're wanting our clients to move from a culture of addiction where there's a lot of you do this, you do that, when you, to I experience, I feel, I need. Not because it's selfish, but because it shows self-awareness. I mean, that's a big shift. A lot of you'll pick it up all the time. I hope people go, yeah, when you're studying, it's like, no, it's about that. It's about taking ownership. Mark knows exactly what I'm talking about. He's heard me say I dozens of times up to now, I suppose. Right? Because we all have different stories, like David said, and we all have different situations. And I don't know what it's like to be in your life or in one of my clients' lives. The things that upset or overwhelm, there might be relatedness, but it's how they see it in their space. It's an internalization versus the externalization. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, can I just add my 2 cents as well. It's kind of a weird kind of a dichotomy, isn't it? In my head it is, because I'm so used to the we, and I always realize when I'm in the fellowship as well, and I say, yeah, but when we do this and we do that, I'm talking on behalf of addicts, which is ridiculous, because it's arrogant in the assumption that we're all in it together, which we're not, because we all have our own stories. So in the one sense, I'm trying not to be egotistical and not go with the I, but in the other sense, it's patronizing to assume that we all have the same story, which we don't. So I've got to be very mindful of that.
Cool. All right. So building on, yes, Josh.
Sorry,
Are you
yeah.
okay with being called Josh?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you can call me what you want. I really don't mind. Josh is great.
Okay.
But I also wanted to comment on that. I remember when I was doing undergrad psych, they were trying to kind of like theorize this concept of empathy, which I think is like an odd thing to do. I understand localizing it in the brain, but like trying to, I don't know, almost create some kind of model for it. But something that I found interesting, which I think really speaks to what we're saying here, is that there's a difference between putting yourself in someone's shoes and being someone in their shoes. So, I mean, I can imagine what it's like to be in Mark's situation, and I can imagine how I would react to that. And empathy, to a degree, does come from that, and also your own lived experience. But to be Mark with his own temperament and his own history, or to be Kayleen with her own way of dealing with things and trying to imagine their situation, it can be quite tough. I think my video is cutting, but that's basically what I wanted to say.
We got you. That was fine, in spite of the. Okay. So the point of I don't want to labor on about it, but I do want to labor on about it, is when we speak about I, yeah, it's about me, yeah, which is level 1 listening. And then level 2 listening is you, and then level 3 listening is us. And I, as a coach, need to take responsibility for the coaching side of the relationship and to see where we are going along that continuum. So we contracted 5 weeks ago for 20 weeks to learn about recovery coaching training. Yep, that was the overarching contract. Yep. How are we doing on that journey? How am I doing on that journey? Do we need to recontract? So somebody might come in and say, listen here, I want to stop smoking crack, but I want to carry on drinking. Yep. 3 weeks down, they might come and say, you know what, I want to stop everything now. Okay, great. So I've been following you from addiction to harm reduction, and now you want to move to abstinence. Does that make sense? Some people might have come in, I want to stop everything. I want to stop the crack, the heroin, the booze, the dope, the gambling. I want to stop it all. Yep. And 3 weeks in, they're still smoking lots of dope. Okay. Do we want to recontract? Yeah, okay, listen, I'm just going to stop the crack and heroin, but I want to carry on smoking dope for a bit. Great. So I had a gambler. Yep. And the gambler, when I met the gambler, he wanted to do some controlled gambling. And in my head, I thought, oh, fuck, this is going to end badly because you can't do it. But I had to keep that quiet. Yep. He then went off and did some controlled gambling and he won. Yep. So the consequences of his controlled gambling is he started to win. But then he realized that he never leaves the casino. Whether he wins or loses has nothing to do with it. What he was doing was avoiding his relationship issues at home. So then he decided to go to GA and to practice a 12-step program for gambling. Okay. So while that process was going on, I had some anxiety, and my judgments are like, oh my God, can you really give this person agency to take responsibility for himself? Which was hard, because I thought I knew better. Mark Anthony Pereira.
So I just want to say, David, it's been very interesting for me. There's been quite a few people that I've come across here at the clinic that have got this mindset of that they want to learn how to. They don't want to abstain completely. They're in a process where they want to sort of now I've gone blank with the term, but they want to like have controlled using, and Leanne's been has asked a lot of questions in relapse prevention, because I have I know from my own lived experiences that doesn't work for me. There is no way that I can have an assumption that now, because alcohol is not a problem for me, that, you know, at some point I can, you know, go back to it. I know that that's not possible. But now if I have someone that says, you know, they want to learn how, or they want to still drink, but they want to have like controlled drinking, 2 units a day or for 7 days or whatever. I was very curious how I would manage my own sort of, you know, judgment, and sort of like how I would handle them, how I would say, you know, I'd have to be supportive and like you say, reserve the judgment, but my mind would be saying, shit, I know exactly where that's it's not healthy to be in that process. But yeah, there are people that clearly it maybe works for, I don't know, not myself.
Before David says anything, I just want to jump in there. You don't have to be supportive. You can be completely neutral. You can hold judgment. You don't have to say, yes, I think that's a great idea, if you don't think it's a great idea. You can play a very neutral hand and continue to ask the client questions, challenge the client, work with them if they are trying to moderate or work in a harm reduction space. You don't have to be like, awesome, I think that's great. You know, you can use techniques like challenging and being like, oh, okay, so, you know, what do you need to do? How do you think that's going to work out? What are you going to do if it doesn't work out? You don't need to always be like super like rah-rah with your clients and like support everything they say. You know, the role is, I mean, sometimes I play a very neutral role or a very challenging role with my clients, you know. Yeah, you don't, just the thing I picked up on, you don't have to be supportive. You know, you can still be challenging, questioning, that sort of thing. No, Mark, you can't be moderate. You know the answer to that one. But what works for you is not what works for everybody. You know? Thanks.
Yeah, where do you want to go with this, Mark? Because I get it. I get it. Did you ever try moderate using that?
I've tried it 14 times.
Okay, all right.
And I think that to just add on that, it was plainly that all my other attempts at recovery were always forced, and I always was in a mindset of, I'm not ready. I still need to see how far I can push this. Or I think, you know, I tried to control the one substance by getting rid of the other one, and then I tried to just have alcohol. And so I've tried every con or I don't know, mischievous way of trying to do it.
Yeah, you're fucked. I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. That's fine. But what would have been a good way to engage with you during that time?
I know. I'm chaos with a capital C. I'm not. I'm totally a different human being. I'm in an identity that's just destructive and promiscuous and
So the
not
question
interested.
was, what would have been a good way to interact with you
Oh,
while you were in that space?
definitely, if someone was not coming from a judgmental place and was kind of encouraging me to or asking me questions of what do I want to see in like a good future sense, like what kind of plans or
Great.
goals, encouraging me.
Okay. So the interventions were kind of shame-based, anger-based, and fear-based, and you will do this based.
Definitely. And also giving me ultimatums constantly.
Yeah. So giving someone an ultimatum is one of the most fuck you provoking behaviors. Like, well, I'll show you, don't you tell me what to do. It triggers that defiance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Let's
Thanks.
hear, we'll go Bradley's wisdom and then it's Fortune.
Yeah, sorry. With that, sorry,
Are you
on what
apologizing?
Leanne also said. Hey?
What are you apologizing for?
Yes. I almost said it now again until you asked me, but let's go. So on the thing that Leanne was saying there, I think that's the key thing is that when we come in there for markers that we challenge a bit, but at the end we do have to acknowledge that they are going to do it in any case. So we say, okay, they're going ahead with it. But I think for them to come the next week, we see them again, is actually to ask them then how was the last week that they tried their new moderation thing.
Great.
And then try and make them understand that is it moving in the right direction? Is it moving forward? I think that would just be a key, is always to check in with them again the next time you meet with them. How's the moderation thing going for them? How's it working for them?
So the most important thing is that the client, whoever keeps coming back, yep, you stay engaged, yep. And Mark, we make judgments all the time. We're dealing with people's lives. We are just not judgmental in our decision and add the shame to that. Yeah. So my judgment is, you want to go do some controlled drinking, go for it, mate. I can't stop you. Yeah. What will happen then is they'll go back to their family and they'll say, David said I can drink. And then the family get pissed off and then they come to us and go, what are you doing? You da 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 da. So just, okay. Fortune, you were going to go next. Has your question gone? Do you still want to ask it?
Yeah, I was struggling to unmute. It was not a question as such. It was a sort of a statement. Working in the harm reduction field, I have noticed sometimes the decision, you find that the client to be in that state of wanting to use control using is a matter of staying alive and dying. Is not he or she doesn't have a choice in per se, because sometimes maybe there's no resources for him to move from the continuum of active use to abstinence. There's no resources for him, so sometimes it's the only option that someone has in their life of harm reducing.
Exactly. Thank you, Fortune. Okay. Kayleen, did you want to say something?
Not specifically. You really caught me
Okay,
there.
yeah, no. It's just the tiles are moving. As people put their hand up, it goes to the top left-hand corner. So you're just in the top left. Yuri, how are you doing? Let's hear from you, mate. What's your wisdom here?
My wisdom or my experience on the course so far?
Whatever, it's all going to be wisdom.
Okay. My experience so far is I'm very consciously aware of how consciously incompetent I am, or I feel about it at least. And I'm still trying to define exactly what the role of this recovery coach is,
Okay,
as opposed to, let's say, a life coach.
great. Okay.
Also, there are so many tools and continuums that sometimes I feel overwhelmed
Great.
by it. You know, how would I incorporate everything? And also, where am I going to fit? If I'm a recovery coach, where am I going to fit into this? I understand that, you know, mainly it's dealing with addiction, but my heart lies a lot with people who suffer from depression.
Great.
And I know that depressives tend to use substances like myself, like I did. Also, and burnout in organizations. And while thinking of this, I'm also dealing with my own monsters, if you can call it that, and my own false beliefs that are coming up that I need to address, where I'm also going through the journey of being a recovering alcoholic or addict or depressive. So yes, it's overwhelming
So
for me.
I knew you would have a lot of wisdom. Okay. So, what is recovery? Who deserves to see a recovery coach?
Anyone who wants to, I think anyone that wants to feel better or be better than what they are now.
Great. I would support that. So we've had a student who broke their neck in a freak accident, and their career changed completely. And as a result of them breaking their neck and not being able to go back to their career, there was a complete identity crisis, and they went into a very deep depression as a result of that. And recovery coaching for that person was to bring them out of that culture of addiction, yeah, which is kind of like misery and I can't do this anymore and no hope and helplessness and all that sort of stuff, to actually bring them into a place of, okay, this has happened. And a lot of their experience was just going to see surgeons, doctors, physicians, but nobody was really talking about the loss of identity for that person and who is this new person going to be. Yeah. So when I talk about loss of identity, people might be in a culture of addiction, but at least they fucking know who they are. So Mark has come into a culture of recovery. There's a huge identity crisis going on. Like, who am I now without this? Yep. And he is exploring this. Yep. You know, he's sorting out his physical stuff. Yep. And now he's exploring all sorts of other things. And the culture of recovery in the beginning is traumatic for people. Now, people seem to think, oh, I go off to the clinic or wherever it is, and then I go to the outside world. It's like, who am I now without this? Yeah. And it's the individual and the system as well around it that goes into crisis. Okay, let's hear from Josh and then we'll take a break. Unless Josh has got one of those deep, meaningful questions that keep us debating for an hour.
Who knows? I never know. I think
Good answer.
from what you said, the reason why that's why I like to think of recovery as getting back what addiction has
Took
taken
away.
away. And the reason why I had a problem with that definition of it in the beginning, because I'm like, what if you never had that? What if you never had anything, you know? But then I realized that, like, even if it is with like identity, or I know when I like when I binge drank, whatever the past tense is, when I was in high school, what I recovered, you know, was, you know, the ability or the space to then grow and develop certain skills, you know, to cope with things in a way that I usually avoided it. So like I like the idea of it, seeing it as getting what the addiction took away, even if that is an experience of learning how to cope with things. It can look a lot of different ways. So yeah, I just wanted to say that I like that definition of it a lot more now when I understand it that way.
Okay. Do you think somebody would benefit from recovery coaching once they've given birth? Let's think about that.
Yes, definitely. Sorry, I will answer since nobody's volunteering. Definitely, because they're on a process of recovery, physically, emotionally, hormonally, and adjusting to so many new things. So definitely,
Yeah,
it's just
but
where
you're
you see yourself
had a
in your journey.
transformation. You're no longer, say was in a marriage. Yeah, you're no longer a wife. You're now a mother, and that there's a loss of one identity. Yep, a new one emerges, and everyone's going, "How wonderful this is!" And actually, it's like, "Fuck, who the fuck am I now? What is this? What have I?" And I think in society struggles to talk about this stuff as well. All right, let's take a quick break because I'm about to pee in my pants, even though I'm not wearing any, but that's another story. This is a Zoom call. Maybe that was too much information. Shit. Sorry. Okay, bye. See you in 7 minutes. Right, that was 7 minutes. Who's there? We've got one pole dancer. We've got one businessman. Great. All right. Welcome back, everyone. Let's just do a quick check-in. So, Mark, go for it. Check in.
Yeah, Mark checking in. Really, yeah, I'm loving everything about this course. Yeah, loving it.
Cool. Nick, quick check-in.
Inspired and loving to get to know all the new people.
Josh.
Connected and calm, feeling great.
Leanne. Okay, I didn't hear that because you were muted.
Present.
Branka.
I feel very now a little bit calm. At the beginning, I felt very nervous and exciting. But after, when I listen a little bit, what are people talking? So, yeah, I feel a little bit more calm. And I want only to say that I need to disconnect it because I beginning to work at noon. So I need to go. I don't know, I hope that it's okay. I cannot be present every meeting, so this.
It's absolutely fine, Branka. It's wonderful having you here. Branka's in Croatia, just so everyone knows.
Yeah. So I said hello to everybody and see you next time.
Cool. Vanessa?
Bye-bye.
Bye. Vanessa, you want to go next?
I'm checking in, feeling thoughtful. I'm actually enjoying the learning process and what we're learning this morning.
Cool. Kayleen?
Feeling grateful and yeah, pretty calm at the moment. So yeah.
Bradley?
Bradley checking in, loving life.
Loving life.
Loving life.
Okay. Tonya?
Tonya checking in, yeah, feeling more grounded and connected and inspired. Thank you.
Cool. And Yuri, are you back?
Yes, I'm back. I'm still curious and excited.
And Fortune? Fortune, are you there? Whoops.
No, he's not, but Sister Tsuma hasn't checked in, I don't think.
Yep, Sister Tuma.
I'm
Tuma?
checking in, feeling warm, connected, and calm.
Okay. All right. So I've just switched computers. Can you hear me all right? Yeah, still? Yep. I also put on some trousers, so there you go. And I often say things, and then afterwards I think, oh God, why did you say that? So that's kind of the level one listening for me as well. Sister Tumaka, I'm just going to mute you, yes? There we go. Cool. All right. Is that everyone checked in? Okay. Great. Now, Bradley, did you have a question before we checked out?
No, it's fine. I was just actually also going to respond on the pregnancy thing, but Inessa answered it.
Oh, okay. So you know what it's like to be pregnant, and then
I was going to say that I don't know that. Yes.
Okay. Cool. All right. Good. All right. So let's. How many are we here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. So how's the class going? How's the training going? Are you guys getting enough time to practice amongst yourselves? Or do you want to use some of this time to do some practice coaching? Nick, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to give some feedback because we've been doing it in our classes with Nikki. And are some of these wonderful faces I'm seeing on the screen in front of me, are you open to coaching or being coached? Because I need to try out my newfound skills and I need people to try out their newfound skills on me. So I'm a willing guinea pig and I'm willing to work the other way too, if anyone's keen.
Great stuff. I would love to see more of that, some more of the interconnectedness. And on a Tuesday, there's going to be another class running with other people. And on on a Tuesday that you're welcome to come. Those of you that are interested in the systemic wellness program, where you use coaching as a skill set within an organization, there's a class on a Thursday, but there's a fee for that. So, but certainly on a Tuesday, there'll be a space with more students from around the world coming as well. That'll be from 10 o'clock your time. Or is it 10 o'clock my time? Fuck, and the clocks are changing. I'll get back to you this week as when the time is. Yeah.
Guys, I did set up a WhatsApp channel where there's probably almost 24 people in. And the idea of setting it up was for people to exchange information so that you could have a wider pool to coach from. I don't know if anybody's using it, but a lot of you are in it. It's got, I see Nick made a comment, but it's got quite a few people in it who are looking for, it's 24 members minus David and myself who are looking for people to coach and be coached. So also use that. I'm going to repost the link in this chat so you can you can have a look at that as well. It's a great place to connect with people you're not necessarily in a container with.
All right, then. So I'm going to use this time to carry on with the kind of the theory and the practice, and you guys can connect with each other and do practice coaching and learn from each other in your own time. I think that's a better use of our time and resources. Yeah. All right, so let's just recap what we've spoken about today. So we've touched on the 4 continuums. We spoke about the adult learning model, being unconsciously incompetent, becoming consciously incompetent, then becoming consciously competent, and then becoming conscious of how competent we already are. Yep, the unconsciously competent side of things. Yep, we've spoken about a culture of addiction, yep, or a culture of adversity. So when we're using recovery coaching out of the substance use disorder space, yeah, we'll talk about a culture of adversity because a lot of people don't understand, but I'm not an addict. I don't understand. Everyone's a fucking addict. Yeah, they're just in denial about it. All right. And then we've spoken about a culture of recovery or a culture of resilience. Yep. So in the workplace, so talking about the example of somebody becoming a mother, yep, the trauma of that, the change of that, and the systemic change that happens to the relationship is something that can also be considered. Because the husband becomes a father, and then you can see the dynamic change. Is that making sense? Yeah. So I'm just trying to expand from just the pure substance abuse side of things and to just kind of focus on the continuums where we're seeing progress and change. Yeah. Yes, Josh.
Sorry, I just want to double check. Is it unconsciously incompetent, consciously incompetent, unconsciously competent to consciously competent.
So
It's a bit confusing.
It's unconsciously incompetent. So you don't know that you can't do it. Then you wake up and go, oh shit, this I thought it was, and that's consciously incompetent. You suddenly be aware of. And then with practice and practice and practice, you go to the next level of consciously competent. If I do this, if I check in, contract, create the container, what must I do? Oh, I must find out what the agenda is of the client. Oh, ask an open question. Oh, what would you like coaching on today? Okay, now I must listen levels 1, 2, and 3. Okay, my head's doing this. I must relax. What's the listen to the all that sort of. And then after a while, you become unconsciously competent, where you just do this stuff naturally.
Okay, I love that. Sorry, thank you.
And then what happens is you become unconsciously incompetent in another area of your life. So it's like edge psychology. You get to the edge, you think once I'm there, I've got it, only to realize, oh, fuck, I got another edge to go to. Yeah. Great. All right. So where should we take the container? We've got 40 minutes left. We're talking about the continuums. Yep. The symbol for the continuum is a pair of glasses. Yep. It's a circle, a line, another circle. And the symbol talks about, can you see where your client is going? Can you see where you're going? Can you see where the system is moving to?
Can
Yes,
I
yes.
ask a question if nobody else got direction? I was intrigued by a statement that you made, David, just before we left for a break. And you said that culture of recovery is traumatic for most people. So can we talk a little bit about the trauma of the culture of recovery?
Sure. Okay. So, yes, we can talk about it to answer yes, no question. Yeah. So, who's in recovery here? Okay. Mark? All right. Okay. Nick? There we go. All right. Yuri? Okay. Cool. All right. So, who's been divorced here? Anyone been divorced? Yep. Okay. Cool. All right. Let me just see where to place this now. So, people get triggered. Yep. And so going into hospital or going to a clinic, being taken out of a system, yep, and then to integrate back into that system, you would have gone into with a role. And then that role changes. So who is that person going to be when they leave? So just to kind of talk heteronormatively, yep. So we'll say a husband and wife, and the husband's an alcoholic, and the wife is a very supportive wife and stands by her man. And then the husband goes into this clinic to work on his alcoholism. And then all of a sudden he's realizes he's an alcoholic and he wants to attend these AA meetings all the time. And the wife is filled with kind of anxiety because she wants to know, what must she do? I really want to be there to help my husband. I've seen he's had a problem for years. I've been telling him for years he's got a problem. Now he's gone to a clinic. What must I do? Yeah. There's the system. The role players in the system are changing. He's no longer the alcoholic that's drinking. He's now a sober alcoholic. Does that make sense? That has started to go to meetings. Yep. And then his friends at the pub go, you know, I can come join us at the pub. You're alive for the party. He goes, no, I'm not doing that anymore. Oh, you think you're better than us now? No, I'm not better than. Oh, did you find Jesus? No, I haven't found Jesus. You know, the identity of that person has started to change. Internally, there's a change. Who am I going to be? What are people going to think about me? Yeah, whatever. And externally, the role players are changing. So, for example, the wife, in spite of her husband's chaos, she knew what the role was. Friday night, he comes home, he's gesape. We can see in his eyes whether he's going to muras, yeah, or whether he's going to be nice, and whether he's going to be a happy drunk or violent drunk. Now we don't know. Now we're trying to find our feet. Is that making sense? It's exactly the same as when somebody's got a job and then they lose that job. Somebody's been in a career for many, many years and now they enter retirement. It's like, who am I now that I'm retired? That is traumatic. Trauma is too much, too soon, too quick. It's overwhelming for the individual. The fantasy is, oh, well, the person's going to go to clinic, they're going to be there 3 weeks, they're going to get well, and they're going to come back and we're going to live happily ever after. The reality is the person goes to the clinic, they kind of sober up, and then it's like, oh shit, we've got all this cuck to sort out now. And this is, am I making sense here? Yep, because I've got an anxiety going on in my self-talk. Yeah. Am I making sense? Am I being helpful to Vanessa?
Yeah, you are. And if you don't see my eyes connecting with you, I'm taking notes. So
yeah,
you're very
no, that's good. And I just spoke that out loud because that's my level 1 listening that's playing in the background that I'm sort of trying to ignore. Yeah, and to keep talking about it. Does that make sense? And when I say, does that make sense? That's my anxiety talking, because I'm looking into the future thinking, oh, fuck, I'm not making sense. And people are going to think I'm stupid and they're going to tell me, and then I'm going to feel shame. So my anxiety is trying to protect me from something that happened in my past. Does that make sense? And I'm hoping my story is able to teach, yeah, about what recovery coaching is. And I might be going a bit off track here, but my anxiety says, am I making sense? Now, people don't necessarily know about my anxiety. And when I say a statement like that, they might say, well, of course you're making sense. Do you think I'm stupid? When actually it's just my anxiety talking. Am I going off track here? I think I'm going very much off track. Yeah, there's Leanne going, fucking bring it, hone it in, David. Yeah, it's traumatic. Yeah, going into recovery, creating a new identity can be traumatic. It is traumatic. It's overwhelming. Kayleen?
No, thanks, David. I didn't say, sorry. Do you want to go first, Leanne?
No, go, Kayleen.
Oh, so I just want to say, no, I think you made perfect sense there. And I think that bringing in those different scenarios is so relatable to many of us, because when you started speaking, I actually thought about my own experience in having come out of a very, very codependent and toxic relationship as a young, just straight out of school, and how I actually had to rediscover my identity outside of that. So when you mentioned divorce, for example, I didn't want to put my hand up because I've not been divorced, but it's sort of a similar process where it's actually an ongoing trauma where it's not just the actual beginning of the recovery, but it takes a very long time. The trauma extends for a long time. It's not like an instant trauma. It lingers with you for a long time, because I don't know if this would be something that's relatable to some people who have struggled with, who have been in recovery. But when I, for example, came out of that relationship, because I had such a codependency on it, and my whole world had been that relationship, I didn't know anything outside of that relationship. It's almost like I would mention the person quite often, but try to reframe it in a positive way. And everyone around me would be telling me, well, why are you still talking about this person? Why are you still talking about this person? And on the inside, I was like, well, that's all I knew for 5 years. So obviously I'm going to be talking about it. And acting like it never happened was almost also traumatizing, having to people trying to force me to not bring it up, to not talk about. And so I think that denial from outside, where people actually don't want you to speak about it, is also in itself traumatic, because it's like this dark place we shouldn't go and we shouldn't talk about. But it was a part of us, and I think that we shouldn't let any part of our history just be sort of shoved under the rug or forgotten, because then it becomes, I don't know, that doesn't sit well with everyone.
So that's a fantastic example. I'm great with the I statements around that. The wonderful example. Yep. So I was in a relationship that ended after school. It was really traumatic for me. It really impacted. I lost my sense of identity. And when I spoke to other people about it, the feedback I got was like, I should be getting over this now. Like, why are you still talking about that? Which was an additional trauma on top of the complete loss. Thank you so much for that. Nick?
David, I'm interested to know what you were expecting from your initial question. Who's in recovery? Depends on how you frame or define that, because I see at the bottom here, there's 12 participants, but 3 hands went up.
Yeah.
Am I incorrect in assuming that should have been 12 out of 12? And if there were 12,000 people here, it would be 12,000 out of 12,000. Everyone's in recovery for something, whether it's being an addict or not. I mean, is that a false assumption? I mean, we all have work to do in ourselves.
So just help me understand what your question is, Nick, to me directly.
What were you expecting from your question when you said who here is in recovery?
Okay. So I wasn't really I was expecting a learning from the question. So I was expecting that the container can learn stuff around this. Now, with addiction treatment, yeah, or recovery, everyone has an opinion about it. And lots of people say, I'm not one of them, yeah, or this isn't so there's that. So personally, my personal belief is everyone is in recovery, or everyone has the opportunity to get into recovery. Okay. Recovery is self-directed by the individual as well. It's not like 12-step fellowships have the ownership on the term recovery. Okay, we'll explore that in a bit more. Mark, let's go to you.
I find it very interesting, your take on there being an element of trauma in recovery, because it's been a consistent thing for me when I have tried in the past to get into recovery. I always would look at the people that had a lot of clean time, and they would express positive change and growth, and everything is the gifts of recovery, talking about how their lives had turned around, and I'd be sitting there maybe in denial or not being willing enough, but my life wasn't changing. I was getting a lot of insight in the recovery space, in the rehab, about how my life should go, but I couldn't. I put a lot of pressure on myself always to recover, or to show that recovery is happening for me, and then I would feel sort of despondent when I wasn't seeing these changes or experiencing them. So it would be traumatic for me. and
So,
trying
so,
to understand.
so Mark, let's just talk about your story in particular. Yep. So you came to the clinic, what, like 6 months ago, 5 months ago?
Oh, no. I've only been in the clinic for around about 2 months now. I was in
2 months. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So before you got to the clinic, your idea was, fuck, I'm going to get there and I'm going to jump the wall and run away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just that is overwhelming. Fuck, going to the clinic is over, I'll run away. You got there, you were held. You wake up in the morning, you go to the bathroom, you look at your face, and it's like, oh, fuck, I've got no teeth in my mouth. That is fucking traumatic. Looking at that with sober eyes is fucking, oh my God. Then to look at your life and your past and how you got there, just with a sober mind is overwhelming in of itself. Yeah.
Totally.
How am I gonna? And then looking at people further down the road is overwhelming. Oh my God, I'm never gonna be able to get there. Yeah. But if you can just kind of wake up, eat breakfast, go get your meds from the nursing station, go to group, do this, do that. Yeah. That kind of little bit slowly, the resilience in your body has been built up. Yeah. Then you had your teeth fixed. Yeah. So now you wake up in the morning, you look at yourself and you smile, and it's like, oh, fuck. Now what?
Yeah. It's been a huge confidence booster. Like I can finally see myself again.
Great. And it's taking time to rebuild this new identity.
For sure.
Yuri, you got your hand up?
Yes, I would also like to make a statement, or perhaps I'm struggling how to phrase the question, but I want to talk about it, the flip side of the trauma of when you're in recovery. It's not so much about you having an identity that's changing, but it's also for myself, it is seeing the things that I am not able to change, the things that caused me to go into drinking or using or abusing in the first place, things in my behavior of either being a more passive person, self-isolating, not being able to stick with good habits that I'm trying.
Yuri, I lost you. Has everyone else lost him? Yeah? Okay. All right, while we're waiting for Yuri to come back, Inessa, do you want to, you got your hand up?
Yes, so listening to Mark's comments and just a little bit when we were talking about trauma, I would love to explore a little bit more of what is the role of hope in the whole journey.
Right,
Because
okay.
moving.
So just hold hope
minute.
for a second. Yuri, are you back?
Yes, sorry, I'm back. I'm not sure what happened.
Yuri, do you want to switch your video off? It might help.
Seeing you going back is traumatic in itself. It's very self-defeating in a way.
Okay. So Yuri, I'm just going to stop your video. And the reason I want to stop your videos is, one, so we can hear you better, but it's really important what Yuri is saying. Yeah, if I got it right. So Yuri's where he is now and going back into his past, yeah, whatever, there are things that could be triggering and re-traumatizing here in the present. Yeah. And sometimes asking too many questions around what's happened in the past can be overwhelming for our client. Does that make sense? Yeah. So what I like to try and stress with our clients is when they're, particularly when they're in the clinic, we have these traumatic events that the clients have gone through, and how do they use that traumatic event to justify behavior now in the present to support a culture of addiction? Okay. So for example, me, I'm a survivor of sexual abuse. Yep. I'm a survivor of all sorts of things in my childhood. Yep. Which I'm very well with. I'm a well person now. But I used to use those traumas as a golden wound to justify the behavior in a culture of addiction. Does that make sense? Yeah. And like the first thing is like, it's like where Mark is, you know, he's fixing his teeth, he's doing pole dancing, he's doing all that sort of stuff to get some stability. Yeah. And he might choose to go and look at his past and kind of look at that sort of stuff so he can thrive in the future, as opposed to just surviving the past. Does that make sense? Like recovery is about, it's fucking thriving. Like I'm a well person in spite of the shit that I've been through. I'm well. A lot of people will tell me I'm unwell, especially when I just kind of say, listen, I've just done the Zoom class without any pants on. That might be a bit inappropriate. Yes, I'm a bit kind of inappropriate and a bit odd at times, and my humor's a bit all over but ultimately, when it comes down to it, I'm quite a well person. I know how to keep me alive. Am I making sense here? There's my anxiety going. Yeah. Leanne's always my good kind of anchor. She kind of, yes, David, okay, bring it.
I think just, David, something that Yuri said, he said, what about the things you can't change that took you to your addiction, and how do we work with those with clients?
Great, thank you for that. So I can't change my past, but I can reframe the way that I respond to it. I'll say
Sorry,
that.
David.
Yes, Yuri, great.
Do you mind if I
Please
interject?
go back. No, please do, please do.
I think I've formed it better now. It is more about the good things that I have formed now, like, I'm sorry, I just want to get his name, like Mark Anthony or Joshua. Started rock climbing, also fixed my teeth, started eating healthy. What's traumatic is busy backsliding from that.
Okay.
Is when you start to regress from that, and you know, the trauma from that.
Okay. Okay, so I could get really curious about this now, Yuri, but I'm not going to at the moment. What I am going to stress is I really hope you keep coming to these classes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. So let's just start there. So you come back next week, and we see how this goes. Okay. Nessa, you got your hand up. Do you still want to know about hope, though?
Yeah, I do. And I also just wanted to comment that it seems like the steps of from survival to that flourishing or doing well are the steps, the little bricks that kind of build in the bridge of resilience. That's kind of what it seems like to me through the conversation, and then the direction then from trauma towards hope. Because what I've seen with the research is that hope is one of the main factors of success of recovery programs. So how does that fit in, and how does that play out?
Okay, so let's talk. So first of all, you're right around hope. So if you take David's Best's CHIME model, yep, and he's an academic at Trinity University here in the UK, and he's got all those kind of accolades around it, and his he talks about the CHI model, which is connectedness, hope, identity, meaning, and empowerment. Yeah. Before I go there, well, first of all, connectedness is there's a sense of identity. I'm with my tribe, I'm part of. And if I'm part of them, I could become something like that. Yeah. So connectedness, hope, identity, meaning is like, living a life of meaning and then being empowered to go and do that. Yep. So if smoking crack gives you a life of meaning and purpose, by all means go and smoke crack. But usually when you tell people, okay, well, if that's what your destiny was to do that, they kind of go, oh, no, that's not what actually smoking crack is taking me away from living a meaning and purposeful life. But people can be so caught up in the fact, oh, you're smoking crack, and as opposed to kind of having a conversation that isn't about the crack. Like, if that's what you want to do, go and do that. That's fine. But if you... And another thing I always say is, like, when do people want to stop using? When do people think about stopping using? Is when they're using. Like people think like, oh God, I can't drink anymore like this. I can't do that. My girlfriend wakes up every morning, lights a cigarette and goes, you've got to give these up, babe. She never wakes up in the morning and says, I'm not going to smoke today. She wakes up in the morning, lights a cigarette, and then thinks about not smoking because she's completely overwhelmed with the feelings of waking up. Yeah. And that's why working in the frontline stuff and the harm reduction space like Fortune is doing is meeting the clients where they're at. They might be out of it, but you're engaging in conversation where they're in a space to actually absorb the information to a point. Yeah. I mean, obviously, like people can get too inebriated, too drunk, too high that they're just missing it. But you'll be surprised. I did a workshop in Soweto once, a 5-day workshop, and every morning this guy came in completely pissed. And he would check in, go, he'd sit there. At the end of the 5 days training, he kind of woke up and said, you know what? I'm going to go and stop drinking, and I'm just going to start cleaning gardens in my neighborhood. And that's what he did. He fucking sobered up and started cleaning gardens in the neighborhood. It was, and my head was going the whole time, oh, this is inappropriate, having drunk people here. Okay, I guess he's not causing too much harm. He's just kind of sitting there. Let's just leave him. Let's just show a bit of compassion. But he was actually absorbing the information. It was very humbling. It was very humbling to see. Oh, sorry, I'm really excited today. I can feel my kokoro rush is going. Okay, so your homework this week, just before we go to you, Nick, is what gives you meaning and purpose in your life? What instills hope in your life? Okay. And who's going to remind me to check in on your homework next week? Because I'm not going to remember. Fortune. Okay, good. You can hold me accountable to ask a question. Did you do your homework? Okay, good. Nick.
I just wanted to comment on what Inessa was saying, because it's such a huge word for me, hope, in my personal lived experience, and also now with the training I've done in counseling and coaching and all the rest of it. I mean, you see such a wide variety of people, and I came across such a wide variety of people myself when I was in
good catch.
When I was in treatment. I'm using the I, okay.
Yes, good.
You know, people with all these co-occurring disorders, you know, whether it's people with a psychotic or the bipolar or depression or ADHD or whatever it was, but everyone was in chaos, and that, you know, it was voiced or it was shown in so many emotions, whether it was anger, whether it was shame, fear, self-hatred, self-loathing, all of that. I mean, it was all there. But what the common thing for me was, people just wanted to see some hope. They wanted to know there was some hope going forward, and that was a common denominator for whatever the co-occurring disorder was. You know, understanding that the addiction, the narcotic or the alcohol or whatever it was a symptom of an underlying cause. And in underlying with all of them, people just need to see a shard of light that's showing them there is some hope. And that kind of triggers something in your brain, releases some dopamine or whatever it does on a physiological level, but it starts the journey forward when you realize that there is hope. So it was just a beautiful word, and it's so important for me, that word hope.
The flip side of that, though, Nick, is I hope I can drink successfully. I hope my boyfriend doesn't beat me up again. I hope that, yeah. So the other side of it is sometimes hope can be part of a destructive pattern and part of someone's denial construct. So you know, sometimes telling like Mark, yeah, something like, Mark, you're fucked, mate. You have no hope of drinking again. Like, don't even fucking consider it. Might instill hope for him to go and do something else in his life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. There's always a flip side, isn't there? Cool. I just hope that Mark becomes the best pole dancer in the West.
Cool. Joshua.
I think by meeting a client and seeing them as being in a place of wellness and assuming that they are well, I think that naturally gets across, you know, hope, you know, that the idea that there is something, you know, they are well. We assume they're well. And I think that in itself kind of gets across, at least in a very subtextual way in a session. I just also wanted to comment on the homework and how it seems quite, I don't know, I imagine that for other people it might seem simple, but that question for me is quite hard because what's given me meaning and purpose has changed. So a lot to reflect on.
Exactly.
A lot. And then the last thing I wanted to say is I know that you're quite fond of AI, and I noticed there's like an AI companion thing. I think we should use it in our next session. I think it summarizes everything. Might be useful. Just a note.
Thank you. Please, will you remind me next week for that?
Absolutely. And Fortune will remind you of the homework, and I'll remind you of the AI.
Okay, and as long as everyone's all right with that as well.
David?
Yes. Who's that?
You can set Zoom to automatically AI summarize every call. Then you don't have to remember to set it or do it, and it gives you a summary.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've disabled that because it can freak a lot of people out. So
of course.
You know, David, it's you until you share it. It goes to the owner of the account. It doesn't go to everyone until you share the link.
Yes.
That's true.
Yeah. And also if you're working with someone with crack who thinks is paranoid and that they're all recording everything anyway. You know what? I tell you, like I buy more and more into that. My girlfriend bought me an electric toothbrush. Yeah. Now, all of a sudden, I'm seeing electric toothbrush adverts on my feed. It's like, what the fuck? Anyway. Oh, okay. I hope you enjoyed class today, and I hope it was helpful. I feel we're on track, and I'm feeling I check out with a lot of joy. I'm enjoying this container, and I'm pleased with all the other participants that have joined. Yeah. And any feedback, what we can do better, greatly appreciate. Okay, I'm going to tag Leanne.
Checking out. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, thoughtful. And Inessa.
I'm checking out feeling hopeful and intrigued to learn more and to think a little bit more about these things. And I'm going to take Bradley.
Thanks, Anissa. Bradley checking out. David, glad you cleared up that you are speaking about something else and not the crack that you're buying into. But I'm feeling quite relaxed.
Good.
Quite relaxed in checking out. And I am gonna tag Nick.
Thank you, Bradley. I'll check out grateful for having joined this new group, got to know some new people and learned an awful lot. I'll tag Fortune.
I'm checking out very grateful for the information gained, and tagging Helene. Is it Helene?
Yeah.
Helene.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Thanks so much. I'm checking out enlightened, if I can use such a bold word today. I think we learned a lot in this short time, even in the second half of the session. So I'm really grateful for that. And I'm feeling motivated, very motivated to continue with the learning in between these sessions. And I'm going to tag Sister Tuma.
Okay, I'm checking out feeling like enlightened, and I think I need to read more, research more, and I'm glad to be here in this recovery coaching training. I'm going to take who is that? There is Mark.
Thanks, sister. I'm checking out feeling connected, engaged, and yeah, very happy. I'll tag Josh.
Thanks, Mark. Josh, checking out feeling joy. And I'm glad to have spent my last day as a 27-year-old with you guys. I'm not dying. It's my birthday. But yeah, checking out feeling good.
Happy birthday, Josh. Who are you tagging, birthday boy?
So egocentric. Sorry. Who hasn't gone?
Yuri?
Actually, don't know.
me.
Yuri. Oh, okay, let's go with
Yuri,
Tanya.
yeah.
Thanks, Tanya.
And Yuri, yeah. Okay, so Tanya checking out, yeah, feeling inspired and grateful. Happy birthday, Josh. Yuri, tagging Yuri.
Cool.
Cool.
First of all, happy birthday, Joshua. And I am checking out thankful for having joined today. Topics were great and optimistic. And who's left? Leanne.
No, Leanne's been. Has everyone been? Raise your hand if you haven't been. Cool.
All right.
All right, everyone. See you all next week. Yeah, how are you guys finding my little WhatsApp videos that I'm posting around? Are you getting them?
Love them. I watch them with my morning coffee. They're great.
Are you good? All right, thank you. Hey?
Talking about the leadership one.
Yeah. Just like denial and pride and lust and envy and sloth and that sort of.
Insightful. Very, very insightful, I might say.
Okay, good. All right. Cool. All right. And Nick, are we doing better on the branding messaging?
Yes, that's a chat we can have on another day. I think that's kind of a real business kind of discussion, business coaching discussion. And
yeah,
I'm not,
exactly.
not being arrogant. It's just that, got a lot of that lived experience in business, and it's just things
Yes,
I know from
no,
outside.
I completely agree. I'm really just trying to kind of bring it together. So I'm really pleased everyone's come here and that we're starting to give a clearer message to the world, because a culture of recovery kind of needs to bring clarity to the individuals. Okay. All right, everyone. I got another call. Thank you all so much. Lots of love. Take care. See you next week.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.